Welcome back, wannabes and creators, to another episode of The Business of Art, the podcast that demystifies business for artists. And today on the show, we have my good friend, Maytal Gilboa, publisher and founder of Emmett Comics, and publisher of Rosie Press, which just happened very recently in the last couple of weeks. And I wanted to have her on to talk about her massively successful Kickstarter. She raised $25,000 from over 600 backers, and her recent acquisition of Rosie Press. I very rarely had a guest on the program who I hit record when I first started calling and we didn't have to do an intro. So this is literally just her starting from a couple minutes in and just giving value bombs throughout the entire conversation. And I will tell you, as someone who's had coffee with Maytal a few times, this is pretty much exactly what would happen if you sat down with Maytal and had coffee with her. So before we get started, we talk a lot about Kickstarter in this episode. And if you are thinking about running your own Kickstarter, I highly recommend you check out my Kickstarter toolkit, which is everything I've ever written in blog and podcast form about Kickstarter. It's completely free. There's no sign up. There's no obligation. And you can get it all if you go to thebusinessofart.us/Kickstarter toolkit. That's every blog post I've ever written, every podcast I've ever done, conveniently, including this one, I guess I'll put on there as well. And you can get it all at thebusinessofart.us/Kickstarter toolkit. All right, that being said, let's get on with the show. Take it away, Maytal. Let's talk about comics.
You're catching me at an interesting week because we're fulfilling our Molly Kickstarter this week. So it's like I'm got like my jeans rolled up and I'm coming into the office in sneakers every day and t-shirts, and like it's a lot of manual work. You have to like lift boxes and ship and package and go back and forth with the mailbox. It's like a lot of physical work, but it's also really fulfilling, and it makes you happy because you're like, wow, look at how much product we're shipping out to people who like what we're doing.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, over 600 backers is a lot. I think you raised more in one campaign for more backers than I have in all 5 of my campaigns combined.
I'm telling you, it's all because Molly took off on Tumblr. It's all, I decided last January that I wanted to do a Kickstarter. And so that's a year ago. And I sat down with a great consultant, this guy named Jeremy Malul, who's like really lovely, lovely person. And
works with Tyler.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And Jeremy was like, you need to start planning for your Kickstarter 6 months before the Kickstarter starts. And I said, okay, so let's launch it as a webcomic because that'll give us about 7 months to really build our audience. So we built up to the Kickstarter for 7 months, and every day put out a new page, and we're engaging with the audience. And then we were still nervous about the Kickstarter. I was so nervous about it. It was my first one, and I had heard all these stories of people like putting their stuff up and then it failing. And I knew I'd have to like email all my friends and family and ask them for favors. And you're really putting yourself out there. You're really putting yourself in a position of vulnerability when you do a crowdfunding campaign. So I really wanted it to be successful. It was really important to me. So we built the audience, and then within the first 24 hours, I knew we were going to reach our goal because I think we reached like $5,000 or 50%, if not more, of our goal in that 24 hours. And then I was like, I felt so good. It was all this stress went away after the first 24 hours because I was like, okay, now we just have to keep doing what we did and do it a couple more days and reach our goal. And then I think in like 3 days we reached our $10,000 goal. And then after that I was relaxed. We had a bunch of conventions lined up that month. We went to San Francisco. My memory's not that great, but I think we went to San Francisco Comic-Con, which is a small one, but a really good one. And then we did Emerald City that same month, and I think SPX was also that month. So I was running around from convention to convention. Meanwhile, like, convention sales were not great, but the Kickstarter was doing so well, and that was the first time I realized maybe the conventions are not the right way to increase sales. Maybe all of our energy needs to be online. All of our energy needs to be on the webcomic to Kickstarters. I mean, it's so funny today fulfilling our orders for the first half of the day because we're like shipping things to Thailand, Czechoslovakia, France, Ireland, Brazil. It's just crazy where readers are coming from, and they never would have been able to discover Molly if we didn't put it online for free for 6 months.
Yeah, there's a ton of successful, I think probably the most successful comics come from that model, which is you release the webcomic a lot for free, and then you do a successful Kickstarter. That seems to, if I had to dissect where most of the successful Kickstarters come from in the comics field, it's not all of them, but a whole heck of a lot of them start with free webcomic to fulfilled Kickstarter trade paperback or something in some form or another.
And you see publishers following this model now too. Like, you know that I just picked up Rosie Press, and Rosie Press did that, where Rosie Press did a Kickstarter for a special edition print of Fresh Romance, and Oni Press participated in that Kickstarter, right? They were the distributor of that book. And then, so they loved that she did a Kickstarter. And then they went on and off the back of the successful Kickstarter, went out and sold it to stores. And, I have the Wendy Project, and the Wendy Project got picked up by Papercuts. And now I'm in talks with Papercuts about should we be doing a Kickstarter for a limited edition print of Wendy that's got all these extra perks to kind of boost sales of the actual release of the book. And Wendy is one of those really cool books that you can really play with the packaging. We could do fun leather-bound journals. We can put like all sorts of stickers and special things in there. We can do tote bags. We can do special stationery if we want that's Peter Pan themed. Like there's a lot of Peter Pan fans out there, and I think that it's a beloved property and people are going to want merchandise tie-ins with that story. So it's something we're discussing now, and it's not hugely profitable. The myth is that, oh my God, we did $100,000 Kickstarter, we made $100,000, right? That's what people think in their mind. But usually to get to the higher numbers, you're giving people more. So making those books, making those journals, making that stationery, those stickers, all those things cost money. So your margins get smaller and smaller as you offer people more things. That's actually something I learned from Molly. I think we made a mistake in Molly. Granted, it was our first Kickstarter, but we offered people basically anything they wanted. We were like, hey, you want a tote bag? You can choose any tote bag you want from all the tote bag designs that we have on our website. You want a t-shirt? You can choose any t-shirt you want. And as a result, I'm like custom making and packing 200 different packages, right? So a huge time suck for me, very expensive, a lot more room for error, right? Because if you're customizing packages, oh shit, we did a large instead of an extra large. Oh shit, we did a black tote instead of a canvas tote. Oh shit, we did that one instead of that one, right? So all of a sudden, you're leaving yourself open to opportunities for error. This is one of the things that you learn when you do a Kickstarter. You're like, all right, we did that. Now we're going to change. Now we're going to pivot a little bit for the next one, make our life a little bit easier.
Absolutely. Do you mind if I've been recording this whole time? Are you all right with that, or do you want to actually officially start? Because this has all been awesome.
No, I don't care.
All right, cool. Yeah, one of the best, I think one of the coolest Kickstarter sort of special perks are the kind of stuff that people like Dirk Manning do. Did you follow the Nightmare World Kickstarter?
No.
So what he did was he's published by Devil's Due. And he's going to do the Devil's Due edition, but all the Kickstarter backers get a leather-bound cover, basically. And what's great about that is if you do an offset run, the difference of putting a different cover on is very minimal. So basically, you could do a 4,000 or let's say 5,000 book run, and it will cost you the same for the interiors of a 5,000 run. But then you could get 1,000 of them with a leather cover on it and only pay the difference of the leather cover, which I think is a very a way to keep profits, well, some profits give your backers something exclusive, and still be able to have extra stock for conventions and Diamond and all of those people.
Oh, that's fantastic. I didn't know that, and that's a great idea for Wendy, because we've been talking about doing the covers like a journal, and it would be really spectacular if we could do like 1,000 special edition covers that are leather-bound journal, and that maybe have some sort of etchings in it, or we can figure out a way to make it really special. One of the cool things about Wendy is that Wendy is a girl's journal entry. So the book is Wendy's journal, and it's a contemporary story of Peter Pan. So one of the things Melissa, the creator, and I talked about a lot is, what if people could buy Wendy with another journal that they could sketch in and doodle in and write in themselves? So it's like a really cool little gift to give someone, or to yourself, which is, here's Wendy, but here's also a matching journal entry so you can be like Wendy. So we'll see. We're probably 7 or 8 months away from that. I have one more Kickstarter, at least one before that, which is Zana, which we're going to be launching in 3 months. So I have to get through this Kickstarter, onto the next one, and then kind of plan for summer of 2017, which, lucky for me, is when I'm getting married. So I'll probably be tweeting about the Kickstarter as I'm walking down the aisle.
Awesome. I could totally see you doing that, of like, hang on, I do, but hang on, I gotta do a thing. Someone just backed the Kickstarter, I gotta send it there. I totally see you doing that.
I have to retweet. Give me a minute. Honey, give me a minute.
So that's interesting. So I had an issue with doing 3 Kickstarters this year. It was like, I feel like it's too many. I feel like 2 is the maximum you can do in a year, and I'm gonna pull back to try and maximize the amount of money I make from each Kickstarter instead of doing a bunch of smaller Kickstarters. I'm planning on doing either one and hoping to raise in the $20,000 to $25,000 range, or 2 and trying to raise in the $20,000 to $25,000 range. But I don't have the same experience as you at conventions, because to me conventions are incredibly profitable. They're the most profitable part of my whole company, including Kickstarters.
I don't know why that is. It might be because for the first 2 years of my business, all I've had are single issues. So I've been selling single issue comics, which the margin is not that great, right? So you're selling a comic. The most popular thing I sell is an Emmett Comics starter kit, which is 5 comics for $20. The 5 comics cost me, let's say $5.50, and then I'm making a margin of $14. Even if I'm selling, 100 of these, I'm breaking even. Because if I have to travel to Seattle and I have to pay for hotels and for flights and for $800 for a table at Emerald City Comic Con, I'm just breaking even. And I've spent 3 days of my life, and I've had to create marketing materials. And, it's like it's a ton of work to break even.
Yeah, so the difference is that I always go for the cheapest table and then split it for 1. 2, so our books used to cost us $7. We would sell it for $20. Sometimes I discount down to $15. So like we average would sell a book for $16.50. Or $17, let's just say, for the sake of this thing. So I was making a $10 profit margin, which was not great. But what happened once we got the hardcovers, which we just got a couple of months ago, is we were making them for about $3 and selling them for $30.
My hardcovers don't cost $3. How many are you ordering?
1,000 to 2,000.
Yeah, no, mine, for the Molly hardcover, I'm spending $4 a book. I think it's $4 a book.
But that's still good if you're still able to sell it for $30. I mean, that's still a $26 profit margin. That actually is like a legitimate profit margin to start looking at.
Totally, but when I go to conventions, I'm barely breaking even.
Oh, I know, but my point is that once I got the book once I started having the more expensive book on my table, I went from breaking even or making a slight profit to making an incredible profit almost immediately. Like shows went from being a necessity because I needed to be I needed to make some revenue at least to break even on all the costs to, oh my God, I just actually made $1,600 at this 2-day show. Like we went to Palm Springs and Bakersfield, and these are two shows that combined cost me about $300 to do, and I made $2,600 total. And I'm talking about like including and then I maybe spent another $3 a book. We sold about 100, so maybe another 100. So let's say $500 total, including, I'm talking everything: hotel, table, and costs for
food and transportation.
Yeah, and the cost of the books themselves. And I still made at least $2,000 profit.
Well, you're gonna have to give me the list of conventions you go to, and it might be that they haven't been allowing us to be an artist alley because we're a publisher. They make us get a small press table. We also have a lot of product, so I need a bigger table than you do. I don't know if I could reasonably be at a table, that half a table that's a shared artist alley table. But I think next year is going to be a very different experience. By January, February, March, April. By April of next year, I will have 3 graphic novels. I will have Molly, I will have Zana, and I will have Verona. Wendy I won't be able to sell until it comes out next summer. So I'll have 3 graphic novels that I'll be able to start selling, and it will be very interesting to see how our convention sales change once we actually have books with us. And then it's also a question of, should we just be hitting up the comic market, or should we be doing book fairs, which is something that a lot of people talk about, which is, should you spend that extra money to be at LA Festival of Books? Maybe yes, maybe no.
So I say no to that as someone who did it last year, but I'm also a little bit bitter because of where they placed me, and because it rained, and because it was $1,200, and now it's like $1,400 for a table. I think if you get placed in like the graphic novel area, which is like $800, there was way more traffic than where I was, which was like $900 or something like that.
When I was there, I didn't see any traffic in the graphic novel section. I think Darby Pop was there, and there was nobody coming to their table. I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago. But the graphic, where I think we would be best positioned is wherever the YA section is. That's where we should be. And that's why I think maybe we might do differently at a book fair than you are, because you really do appeal more to a genre comic book audience. And we hopefully will appeal to more of a female-centric young adult audience.
Right.
But again,
on top of that, you could also do for Molly, which is about cat sitting. You could go to CatCon and other cat conventions and probably do very well. With Wendy, you could do more like fantasy conventions. So like
I went to CatCon last year. I stood outside of CatCon and I handed out 1,500 cards about Finding Molly and talked to people about the webcomic. This is while the webcomic was live. Okay. Then I talked to my SEO guy the next day, and I said, okay, yesterday I passed out 1,500 flyers to cat people about Finding Molly. Did our traffic change? Our traffic didn't change at all. There was no spike in traffic. So you have to experiment and try these things. But what I have found from my experience is the most effective way to market your book is not necessarily where you think you should be, but putting it online and organically letting your audience find you.
Yeah, and I mean I think that it's a great segue into like talking about maybe like some more SEO stuff, because this is the issue with most people. You talked earlier and you just talked now about basically organic traffic and organically finding you and an audience growing from there. What I more often find with publishers or artists or creators or Kickstarter is they wait to launch that book until the day that they hit the launch button. And I don't know if you still use the same SEO guy as before, but we talked a lot back when I was using him. or that company. And now it takes a year, 6 months to a year before that traffic really starts growing organically. Can you speak to that for a little bit?
Oh, of course. I think SEO is one of the biggest battles for any company, especially in the beginning. I mean, you Google comic books for women, and Emmett Comics doesn't even show up. We don't even show up on like the 6th or the 7th or the 8th page, I don't think. What keeps showing up are like cosmopolitan articles, a lot of blog articles that have just gotten a lot of traffic. Now, if someone looks up comic books for women and we don't show up, that's a huge problem for us because they're seeking out our product and they don't know how to find us. And this is in a marketplace where we have no competition, right? So I thought I have zero competition, right? There are no other publishers out there making content specifically for young girls and young women. And I was like, oh, this will be a dream SEO wise, but it's not true. You have to work at your organic SEO on a daily basis. You have to be creating blog content that is shareable and that people talk about. You have to be focused on keywords. The next thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be spending some money on Google Ads to see if we can just get more traffic to the site, because the more traffic we get to the site, the more it's going to help with our organic reach. We just got a Wikipedia page up, and let me tell you how hard that was. They kept rejecting our Wikipedia pages because they were like, no, this feels like marketing. This doesn't feel like it's legitimate, even though there are like 36 articles about us on different reputable websites. But it's still not enough for them. You have to fight. There is a fight that happens on the internet where you need to fight to be legitimized, and then you have to constantly be bringing back traffic to your site because that will help Google legitimize you and say, oh, wait a minute, this company is actually real because people visit this website. And so when someone searches comic books for women, maybe we should suggest this website to them, right? I'm talking about like the Google gods. So SEO is very important, and it's like a battle we're fighting every day.
Yeah, so what I find interesting about Emmett Comics is you guys came out of the gate with 7 books at the beginning, right? And then it seems like you instead of releasing like a second slate, you guys really went back and tried to like really hone in on each one that you launched and try to make it the best possible experience that it could be. Would you say that's accurate, or
Yes. I have a very similar approach to comics as I did when I worked as a development exec, right? So my background is film and animation. You don't kill a project just because you don't like a draft. You keep working at it until you get to the draft that you think is fantastic. Now, to give your readers context, I had never made a comic book before I started my company. I was not an avid comic book reader. I did not have like deep webs into the industry. I had no fucking clue what I was doing. So I started a slate of 8 because that's how many creators wanted to work with me, and I was excited that many people even wanted to give me a shot. And then I was like, the universe will do its own job in filtering. At least 1 or 2 of these is going to be fantastic, and then we'll learn from the 1 or 2 that are fantastic, and then we'll pivot the rest so that they can be fantastic too. And if anybody says there's an exact science to comics, they're bullshitting you, just like nobody can say there's an exact science to filmmaking. You start with a hope and a dream of what something could be, and then once you get into the production, you realize, oh, wait a minute, that art didn't really do its service. That title didn't really do its service, right? And a lot of this was what was great about being on the convention floor with 8 different comics. It was having really honest conversations with people who were passing our booth and saying, okay, you picked that up. Why did you pick that up but not that one? What did that one make you feel? What did that cover make you feel? What did that title make you feel? And we've been evolving. We've been very much adapting to how people have been responding to our product. So when 600 people tell me, I want to buy Finding Molly the book, I'm immediately going to be like, okay, I want to start developing more stuff that feels like Finding Molly. And when people tell me, hey, Romeo and Juliet and Guns feels like a very violent title, and I don't want to pick it up because it seems like it's violent. Me and the creator sit down and we talk about it, and we're like, are we really representing what this story is? The story is actually about family. It's actually about falling in love. It's actually about personhood and self-realization. Maybe we need to pivot our title so that people aren't put off by the title that we've put forward. So Romeo and Joy and Guns became Verona. We hired a new cover artist. We have very new branding. We're 3 weeks away from finishing that graphic novel. That is a 180-page, gorgeous graphic novel that's had so many drafts, and we've worked so hard on it. And I really hope that when we release the book next year, people are going to be like, wow, this is really cool. Because one of the worst things people did to us in the beginning is they dismissed us because they felt like there were other things like that in the marketplace. So like the most common thing I heard about Romeo and Joy and Guns was, oh, there have been a million comic books about that story. Like, that's not interesting. That's not unique. That's not original. And my hope is that people are going to read that book next year and be like, oh my God, I've never seen it done this way. And this is really smart and really international and really fun. And I really hope they do a volume 2. If people start saying, I want a volume 2 of this book, then I've done my job right.
Yeah, that's interesting that Verona is going to be the second one, because I remember it wasn't one of the biggest sellers of the 8 on your table initially when we talked about a year ago. So that you were able to rebrand and get it it gets people so excited about it is a very interesting lesson in how you can iterate a title or a book or something and go from something that people are lukewarm about to something that people are really behind.
And we don't know if people are really behind it yet. In all fairness, there's an element here of me trusting my gut and me believing that it's a quality product, and that I have to repackage it for people, repackage the story and how I'm telling it to people for them to understand, for them to get why I think it's special. And that's a big part of like a marketing person's job, right? It's okay. I have an apple. I have a really beautiful apple. I can market it to you in a couple of different ways. I can market it to you as, oh, this apple is really healthy for you. I can market it to you as, oh, this apple is going to make you lose weight. I can market it to you as, oh, this market is organic and you're supporting local farmers, right? And depending on what issue is important to you, you're going to buy the apple for a variety of different reasons, right? So it's the same with a book where you're like, okay, this is a book that speaks to romance lovers. This is a book that speaks to Shakespeare lovers. This is a book that speaks to people who love stories that are reimaginings of popular literature, right? So there's so many different ways for us to market it, and part of my job and the creator's job is figuring out, okay, why do we love it? But then also, why are other people loving it? And let's find like the most common denominator and try and pitch it that way and see if maybe we get a different response.
Absolutely. I love such a beautiful and succinct way to talk about marketing. Can you talk a little bit about why Finding Molly was the first one that you chose to do the Kickstarter for? Because I think this is a pretty interesting decision. Of all the 8 books that I remember seeing the first time, this is not the one that I thought you would be first at the gate with in a Kickstarter.
So, there is I talked a little bit about the universe, right? So there's what your plans are, and then there's what the universe's plans are for you. And part of being an entrepreneur is having a plan, but then also being flexible so that when the universe shows you another path, you can start going down that path and quickly. Whatever the path of least resistance and the most momentum. So I started making 8 comics 2 years ago, but then things started happening. Artists started dropping off. People started being slow. Writers didn't turn in drafts. Like the organic things that happen when you are in the comic book production process happen. And Molly was just one of those books that never had any delays. So Molly was the first. So Wendy was the first one to be done, but we sold it to paper cuts, so I couldn't do anything with it. So for a year and a half, I had my hands in my lap, and I was like, damn, the one book I'm done with, I can't sell because Papercuts wanted it, and I wanted to see what a traditional book publisher could do in terms of sales and reach. One of the things that selling a book to Papercuts allows me to do is it allows me to sell it in multiple territories. So Papercuts bought it for for English language rights, but then Editorial Oceana in Mexico bought it for Spanish language rights for Latin America and the US. And then we're selling it to another company in Poland. And hopefully that's just the beginning of what will be a very long life for the Wendy Project internationally. That's something I cannot currently do. I do not have that kind of reach right now. Also, when something's an Emmett book, Editorial Oceana doesn't go, oh, well, if Emmett's publishing it, I want to publish it too in the Spanish language market, whereas Papercuts does have that credibility and that history as a company. Hopefully one day Emmett will be enough. But for now, I wanted to see what that kind of a distribution life cycle looked like. And I also wanted to see what it feels like to work with another publisher. Are they fair? Are they honest? Are they good partners? What does that look like? And so far, it seems like a really nice partnership. We haven't launched the book yet. But, I always have a problem if I have to upfront all the money for all the production costs and I have to hire a publicist and I have to put up all this money and then I'm only getting a small percentage of the profits. That always feels like it doesn't sit fully right with me as a business person. But we'll see. Maybe there'll be a huge upside there. Also, and sorry, I know I'm talking really fast and I'm jumping from topic to topic, but there's a lot to cover. Also, if Wendy does really well in terms of PR and how people are responding to it, all of a sudden Emmett's on the map, and Emmett's known as a company, as a packager or a publisher that's doing really high quality stuff. And at the time, I wasn't able to get it that kind of press and exposure, and we'll see if Papercuts is able to do that for us or not. So Wendy was off the table, and then I was simultaneously doing Zana, Verona, Spoilerland, and Molly. Molly was the first one to be done of all of those, and it was the only project that I could very reliably say, okay, by this date I'll have this many pages done, and by this date I'll have that many pages done. Everything else was in like a weird state of influx. So Molly was the perfect next step for launching a webcomic. Now I have a bounty of riches in that I have all of this product. Now by February I'll have Zana done and Verona done, and I'll be already like halfway through Fresh Romance Volume 2. So I'll have a lot of volume of stuff to put out there. And so we're very seriously considering a model where we are putting out one ongoing and two limited webcomics at all times. So at all times, you will be able to go on our various Tumblr pages and you will be able to read 3 different Emmett comic series.
That's awesome. It's such a marketing mindset to comics, and I absolutely I'm giddy listening to all of the things that you're talking about, because the prevailing wisdom of most comic publishers, small comic publishers especially, is you get a book, the book comes out, and then the next month it's on to the next book, and the next month it's on to the next book, and the next month it's on to the next book. And this is great to see what could happen if you really focus on making every single book the best experience possible.
Because I want to be synonymous with quality. Because that's how you build real reader trust. If I pick up an Image comic and one of them is great and one of them is shitty, I'm going to be less likely to try any of their comics. I'm going to have to go online and see how people liked it and how was it reviewed and what do my friends think of it. But if I've had 2 or 3 or 4 really good experiences with one publisher, I might not have a problem having a subscription with them. I might say, you know what, Emmett Comics, I'm going to give you $100 a year, and every year you're going to ship me the 4 books that you make, because I like all your books and I like what you're about. And I'm a supporter, and hopefully we're moving towards that model where we're going to have a subscription model through Patreon. This is all in the works. Hopefully we can pull it off next year, where it's like people who like what we're about and like what we're doing can give us a small amount of money every month, And every year they get 4 new books from us, and they know that we stand behind quality. They know that we stand behind diversity. They know that we stand behind women empowerment. And they know that we're going to deliver because we work tirelessly every day, 12 hours, to make sure that every single person gets their book, gets their t-shirt, gets their tote, and is happy.
Absolutely. I always say that there's only 2 things that matter in a book. One, when you look at a book to market it, besides the cover. On the spine, it's the little logo. So like for me, it's the little B logo. For you, it's your Emmett Comics logo. And then the byline. So for like the Nolte, Frigeri, whatever that person is. And if you can be either as a publisher or a creator synonymous with quality, people will go places and seek you out. Or they'll see you at a store, or they'll see you at a signing, or they'll see you somewhere and say, I know that brand puts out good stuff. Or I know that creator puts out good stuff. And if you don't have either of those pieces, it becomes very hard, especially when you're starting out as a publisher, because you're building that idea of you being synonymous with quality. And it doesn't come overnight. Like Marvel's had 70 years. DC's had roughly the same. Image has had 20. So it's very hard to match those people's definition of quality, so that somebody just looks at a book and says, that's this small press's book. That's a Wannabe Press book. That's an Emmett Comics book. Right. I know it's going to be good.
Right, and I don't even, in my wildest dreams, I don't think I will ever be competing with the types of companies that you mentioned, but that's not my goal. My goal is to have our 2,000 readers around the world who love what we do, who support our mission, who want to buy our books when they come out. And if I have that, I will be able to have a self-sustaining business that funds itself month after month. I will know where my money is coming from. I can keep investing in books. And you know, that's like a much more manageable thing to think about when you're a business owner. You know, to think, oh, I want to be the next Marvel is probably the most stressful thing you could say to yourself. You'll never sleep. But if you just say, I just need to get 2,000 fans, and if I go, okay, 600 people bought Finding Molly. Now I just need to make sure those 600 people are happy. Our next Kickstarter is Zana. Let's say 700 people buy the Zana book. Okay, I want those 700 people to be happy. Okay, next we're going to do Fresh Romance Volume 2. Okay, I want those 1,200 people to be happy. Okay, next we're going to do Wendy. I want those 1,400 people to be happy. And all of a sudden, you're finding yourself over a period of 18 months with your 2,000 fans. And then it's like, okay, so you like Molly. Or maybe you like Zana. Maybe you didn't like Verona. Maybe you didn't like Spoilerland. But maybe you liked Molly and Wendy enough to say, I'm behind this company, so I'll buy all 4 books from them, even though only those 2 are my favorite. The other 2 aren't my favorite, but I still want to be in that club. I want to be in that family.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're talking about with something like Magnetic Press, right? Like, I love Magnetic Press books and humanoid books. It's a very good chance. I may not buy every single one of their books, but there's a dang good chance that I'm going to buy all of them. And there's a really good chance that if someone says you should buy this book and it has that little fountain pen that Magnetic Press has, there's a real good chance I'm going to buy that sight unseen. Not just because I like Mike, but because I know for a fact that I think he puts out roughly a book a quarter. Every time he puts out a book, I have like an 85% chance of liking it.
Right. Totally. And, you know, when we talk about the universe having its own plans for us, you know that I tried submitting our product to Diamond. I tried submitting our stuff to them twice. And the first time they rejected us because they said our product was too niche. And then the second time they didn't even respond. I heard from someone who works there that they're still reviewing it, but I submitted it in June. So June, July, August, September, October, November, December. It's 7 months since I submitted to them, right? So I tried to go the traditional route, and the traditional route rejected me. And so I had to find an alternate solution. And here I am in a space where I have full control, where I have a direct relationship with my customers, and I'm way happier than if I would have been beholden to marketing people at a big company where they don't have the same passion and the interest in making the sales of my books a success. So, the silver lining, the hard thing is the first 2 years were really challenging. But the silver lining of that is I'm finding my way now. And most likely this was always the right way for us.
Right. I mean, I think that's why most businesses are so deep in the red for the first 2 to 3 years of their business. I don't think it's because they don't have a good business model. I think it's because at least I'll talk from my own experience. You could back me up or tell me I'm crazy, but I did so much junk and I spent so much money and I sunk so much crap into stuff that didn't work that even though the things worked, these like pieces worked, I kept like doing all of this other garbage stuff, trying to see if other stuff would also work. And then after you get to about a year, 2 years, 2 years maybe, that's how far I am now, roughly, I can now say, okay, these 4 things work. And these 4 things not only work, but they can sustain my business. Like, I know if I put out a hardcover book, it will sell copies, and I can go to a show, and I got to work on the online part. That's my next step in the next year. But, like, I know that if I do these things, they will function. And now I have, like, profit that I can funnel into. Instead of funneling, like, revenue and going into the red, I know how much revenue I can expect, and I can funnel that stuff in and hopefully just add on bits and pieces. But it's not trying to find what works. Now I know what works. Did you have a similar experience? Or am I crazy?
Yeah. No, of course. I mean, it's like that saying, if you never make any mistakes, you never tried anything new. You have to be okay making mistakes, and you have to be trying new things all the time. Otherwise, you're not going to find the right path. And this is one of those industries where, like, not a lot of people are experimenting in new models. I'm talking about like the actual publishing companies. And so they don't give you that advice. So the first 6 months of me starting Emmett, I flew to New York and I met with probably 12 different publishing companies and book agencies, because I was like, I'm going to New York, I'm going to find a publisher who's going to be publishing our content, I'm going to find an agent who's going to represent our books, like everything is going to go so well. This is me like feeling really bright-eyed and bushy-tailed when I started the company, and I get there and people are like, don't do it. You were like, don't do it. Go back to your studio job. Go back working in animation production. We have met so many people who have tried to do what you're doing, who have lost their homes and lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in the process. Just don't do it. And I heard it probably from like 4 or 5 different people. And every time I would come home and I'd be so upset. And I was like, why is everyone telling me to give up? I haven't even started. And then you get into the economics of it and you're like, oh, now I see why they told me to give up. Because they're actually trying to tell me how hard the old business model is. The old business model of being distributed through Diamond and paying for artists and writers to create the work is an impossible business model. You will go bankrupt in a year if you go that route. And that's something I learned very quickly. And, I have a business mind. I always have. And so I'd run numbers. And I was like, I don't understand. How does Marvel keep its doors open? How does DC? And then I realized those companies are marketing departments for their film and TV. That's the business model. The business model is it's a marketing machine for the film and the TV shows. They're not actually profitable businesses. And that's a very hard thing to understand from the beginning. So you have to understand that, and then you have to say, okay, in a world where that is the reality of this industry, how do you actually succeed? And luckily, I'm creating my company in a time of Patreon, in a time of Kickstarter, in a time of crowdfunding where people are supporting the things that they love, whether it be a web series or a book or a new game. And hopefully people like our product enough that we can be one of those success stories where you're like, oh my God, that company just made $300,000 on their Kickstarter to help them make those like 10 books that they want to make over the next 2 years. How amazing, right? And all it took was 3,000 fans from around the world who love what they're doing. So, that number was a really big number, and we're a long, long way from that, maybe like 4 or 5 years. But that's the new goal. The new goal is not to have a publishing deal with a big publisher, or to have a big book agent in New York City represent us. Our goals are a lot more quantifiable now. It's just one more reader and one more reader and one more reader, and then to have them all come back.
Right. I mean, you're looking at, I always used to look at things like how does Fantagraphics and how does Humanoids, these smaller niche companies exist. Like, how do they exist? I mean, and that's the model that they've always employed. Make really high quality books, make less of them, work better with the creators and more intimately with the creators, and have an actual profit margin, have each book be profitable. I mean, I think the way that Marvel used to work was they would break even on the single issues and then make money on the trade because they already had all the stuff together. Like, they had already paid all the art, so the profit came in the trade.
Right.
And
yeah, but you still have overhead and employees and to actually run a company like Marvel. Yes, if you're talking about just the production costs of the book, but you have teams of editors and business affairs and legal and marketing people, and all those people have salaries.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I believe that what you're talking about is the model of the future. I mean, it's making it's the model of now. It's making a direct connection with the fans who want your book. I mean, whether it's through a podcast like this, whether it's through web comics, but you have to be the person out there making a connection with the fans and providing value to them before they open up their wallet. And the more value that they provide, the more they will open up their wallet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let us sort of wrap up by talking about, I know you kind of touched on it, but I want to talk about how Rosie Press, what is it about Rosie Press that's so inviting to you about their brand, that you guys acquired it?
So I acquired it on principle. If that is a fair thing to say. I enjoyed the book. I enjoyed the stories in the book. But what made me acquire it was the principle of, I will not let this go away. It was I saw too many tweets when Janelle made her announcement that were like, no, I can't believe this is going away. I love this so much. This meant so much to me. This was so important in the industry. It was such a source of diversity and inclusion. I saw like 40 tweets like that. When I saw those tweets, and I was like, and I saw that people actually needed these kinds of stories, it reaffirmed for me what I've always known, which is storytelling is an incredibly unifying, has an incredibly unifying and empowering force in people's lives. And if it meant so much to all these people, on principle, I have to step up as the only publisher in this space that's focused on empowering women. and saying, okay, let's sit at the table and let's figure out how we make a book too, so that this thing doesn't go away. And luckily I know Janelle. I've known Janelle for 2 years, so I sent her a quick email and I said, hey, this doesn't have to go away. Why don't we just hop on the call and figure out how Emmett Comics can make volume 2? So that happened maybe a week after her announcement, and then it took us about 2 weeks to wrap it up, or 3 weeks to wrap it up. And then I had to let all the creators know what was going on, and some of them were really excited. Some of them were weary because they'd never worked with me before, and I had to kind of, talk to them and explain to them what my plans were for the books. And then we made the announcement. So for me, it was just a moral imperative of this thing that means so much to people should not go away.
That's a pretty good reason. It's not a reason you often hear about in business, but it's a reason that I can certainly get behind.
Well, if I was if I thought the same way other people do, I wouldn't have started Emmett. Right? Emmett is not like when I would pitch Emmett to business people in the beginning, because I had to raise some money to start my company, they were like, so you're starting a charity? That's literally what they understood. When I explained to them the mission of the company, that it was about empowering women, that it was about storytelling, that it was about publishing, they were like, so you're starting a charity for women. And I had to explain to them, no, this is how we make money. This is the path for how we make money. And I do believe that there is a place for a company like ours that makes money, that is self-sustaining. I don't know if it'll ever be hugely profitable, but I do believe that it should be a self-sustaining business that also does all those things that a charity would do, of empowering people and making people feel good, and creating a space for inclusion.
I love that so much. So I know I've been saying that a lot, but I dig the mission that you're on, and I love a company with a mission. So it's and somebody that stays true to that vision over the course of a long time. So you have another Kickstarter coming up in a few months.
Yep.
What are you not going to do that you did last time, and what do you hope to include that you didn't do last time?
So we're experimenting with animated trailers. So we're making an animated trailer for Zana right now. I have a really talented female animator who comes out of Chapman, who is making a trailer for us for Zana, which is new territory for us, but really fun. And hopefully that makes it all the more exciting for people who love Zana, but also for people who haven't been exposed to Zana yet. We are going to definitely bring down the number of options and tiers in the Kickstarter. So for Molly, we had like a ridiculous number of tiers. I think we had like 18 tiers of different things that you could buy and artist commissions. We're going to try and bring that down to no more than 5. And then I'm not sure yet if I want it to be a 30-day Kickstarter. 30 days was kind of long. There were definitely like 7 or 8 days in there that just felt like a little useless. Even though every day people were buying more books, I have heard that making it a 20-day Kickstarter can be just as effective and also be a little bit less tiresome for you. So maybe we'll be playing with a shorter period and see what happens. What else?
Just so you know, I count 28 different potential perks that you had. 28 different like things that you could choose between. There may be different perks that you like added together and like things that were the same, but like as far as me having a choice, there were 28 options, it looks like.
Well, all the commissions were basically, I consider them one option because we did an email introduction with the artist, and then the artist makes the artwork, but we ship you the same thing, which is the book with all the perks that come with the book. So all of those it's the same shipment that we're shipping to you. So it comes down to about like 17 or 18 different combinations of things at the end of the day, but still that's way, way, way too much. So if anyone's planning a Kickstarter, try to cap it at 5 different combinations to save yourself time. And to save yourself room for all the error that could take place when you have so many different combinations. And I'm sure people are going to email us and be like, hey, Maytal, the fuck? I ordered a large and I got an extra large. And I'm going to have to eat that cost and be like, you know what, keep what you have. I'll send you a new one. And I hope, but I hope that doesn't happen often.
Yeah. What was the, of all of the rewards that you had, not the book and not the commission, what was the one reward that you will for sure keep next time? Was it tote bags? Is it T-shirts? Is it what is the one thing you're going to keep?
Well, people love the T-shirts, so and I want people walking around with our T-shirts. So I'm definitely going to keep T-shirts, even though that's the one that requires the most customization. So it's the. But I think ultimately it's really fun to get. I wear our T-shirts, so I have at least one, if not 2, of every single one of our T-shirts, and I wear them to the office, and I wear them at conventions, and I wear them around town, and I just feel really proud to wear them. So my hope is that other people will feel the same way wearing our T-shirts, and it's also a great conversation piece. Like, what is that? Well, if you're wearing a Catitude T-shirt with Molly and the cats, and someone's like, "Oh my God, that's so cute," the person can be like, "Yeah, this is it's a comic book that I love, and I just bought on Kickstarter, and it came with this T-shirt." Now all of a sudden you have other people who are like, "Oh, that's so cute," and they're checking us out online. So I think that the T-shirts are great because they're a really good conversation piece, even though it's more challenging to fulfill. The one thing we're not going to do, which we did, is the pins. The pins, people love pins at conventions, and there's a really big profit margin. So the pin will cost you like $1.50, but then you sell it for $10. So it's a really smart business decision for people who are doing conventions. But for the Kickstarter, there were only like 20 people that ordered the pins from us, and we had to print like a minimum of 150 or 200 of them to get them at a low enough cost. So we went back and we emailed all those people and we said, look, we didn't really meet the threshold for this one. It's going to be way too expensive for us to make. Is there something else we can give you instead? And then people pick T-shirts or totes or whatever as an alternate. But I don't think I'll be offering pins in the future.
All right. Is there anything else that I've asked you that you want to get across to the audience?
Is there anything we haven't talked about? I don't think so.
No, I think this is great because, my whole goal is to make it feel like me and you met for coffee, and I swear, audience, this is the literal conversation of how it feels when we sit down for coffee. It's her talking for like 10 minutes straight, and then me talking for 10 minutes straight, and then like a minute of silence, and then like it all starts again.
It's called it's comic book therapy.
Absolutely. Okay, so last thing, one piece of advice that you haven't given yet, how we can find you online, and then we'll say goodbye.
So one piece of advice.
You can give the website stuff too to stall if you want.
No, I have a piece of advice. Find your people. Find your Russells and your mentors and your people who, when things get dark, because sometimes they get dark, you have someone to call and be like, I had a really shitty week. Can I talk to you about it? And can you help me find my way out of it? I had a really hard experience 2 months ago where I got hired to consult for a company and I got fired because the company just wasn't happy with what I was doing. And it really shook me. It because of the way it was handled and the way it went down, I felt so low. And I reached out to the 4 people who are in their 50s, who have been doing this for years, who are champions of what I'm building. And I was like, what do I do now? How can you help me? And everybody had 1 or 2 seeds of wisdom and 1 or 2 or 3 introductions for me. And even if it's a short call, even if these people are busy, it is so empowering to have those people in your corner. So that's my advice. Find your people. Find your people that when shit hits the fan, they're your first phone call. And then where you can find us online, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on emmetcomics.com, you can find us on Tumblr, you can, if there's some place we're not on, let me know, and we will remedy that quickly.
Awesome. Yeah, and definitely check out Finding Molly. It's adorable and fantastic. And then do you have another one going now?
Yeah, Zana comic at .tumblr.com. Zana is the South African apartheid story that was nominated for the Dwayne McDuffie Award. It is an incredible book. The artwork is absolutely stunning. The artwork by Joey Granger, and that's going to be our next Kickstarter too.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely fantastic. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Maytal.
Thanks, Russell. Have a great rest of your week.
So that was Maytal Gilboa, publisher of Emmett Comics and Rosie Press. And I really enjoyed that conversation. I swear it feels just like me and her sitting down to get coffee. It's eerily similar, which is what I want from this show. So in that respect, she dropped value bombs and it felt very impersonal and fun. So I'm very happy. And if you're happy too, please go over and check Maytal out. Check out Emmett Comics. Check out their Tumblr. And tell them how much you enjoyed it. And if you like this show, head on over to thebusinessofart.us/iTunes, rate, review, and subscribe today. And if you are looking to do your own Kickstarter, I can't stress enough how much you should check out my Kickstarter toolkit. It's everything I've ever said on the subject of crowdfunding, all of my blogs, and all of my podcasts. And you can get it for free by heading over to thebusinessofart.us/Kickstarter toolkit. No sign up required, just awesome stuff. Enjoy. And that's it, wannabes and creators. I will see you next time.